It grows healthy in tea gardens that are thousands of miles apart. It transforms into green tea, outstanding oolong, fragrant black tea, and even white tea. Let's find out what's the secret of Mei Zhan. Hi guys, this is Gabriele from nannuoshan, where we share the pleasure of drinking and discovering genuine farm tea. Today I want to speak about a cultivar that is famous but not that much, Mei Zhan. Let's start from the name. Mei Zhan. Mei means plum, and it can refer to a few things. We come to that in a moment. And Zhan means something like dominate or occupy. So the two words together make little sense at the first glance, and even for Chinese is a struggle. But basically the idea here is that first of all the word Mei refers more to the flower, to the blossom of the plum, not to the tree and not to the fruit. And the word Zhan means that the plum blossom is dominating, means in a way that the plum blossom is, let's say, the queen of all flowers, in a way. A little bit a poetic way, but you know, that's China, that's how it is. The tea originates, meaning that it was first cultivated and planted in the Anxi County, and to be more precise, in Yiping Mountain, Yipingshan, in Sanyang, Lutian, Anxi. What's all those names? Well, the first one, Yiping, is the name of the mountain. The second one, Sanyang, is the name of the village, which is Cun in Chinese. And the other one, coming after, Lutian, is the name of the town, Zhen in Chinese. Anxi is the county, you already know it, is famous for TEAWARE. In the Anxi County, the Lutian town is located somewhat in the southwest. Yep, in the southwest of the county. All right, let's have some tea now. This is actually Mei Zhan from Anxi, so the original one, the one where really the plant originated, as we just said. I have 5 grams here. And while I'm continuing telling you a little bit about the plant, the cultivar, I will also have a sip of it. Fairly dark yellow color. I just had a brief wash. The leaves are also relatively dark, so it seems it has been fairly oxidized, more in a traditional way. So in my mind, I will compare it with a traditional TEAWARE. I had many TEAWARE in my life. I don't need to have a side-by-side comparison, but since I know that this tea is produced in the same area with the same processing, it's certainly interesting to find out if there is a different in taste as well, isn't it? Well, what I can tell you more about the origin maybe of the plant. We say already where it originated, we didn't say when. It is believed that the plant started being cultivated in Anxi about 200 years ago in the early 1800s. But it remained there a local plant for quite some time. It was only in the 60s, 70s of the past century that it was also used in Wuishan, and to a large amount. So they really started in the 70s and the 60s and the 70s to cultivate and to plant Mei Zhan cuttings also in Wuishan. And the reason for that, we will see it in a moment. Even at that time, it wasn't yet very, very famous until actually in the mid-80s, it became, I would say, known nationwide in China because it was assigned as a national level, it was recognized as a national level cultivar. There are just a bunch of cultivar that are recognized at national level in China. And so from that point on, that list that is available to any farmers everywhere in China revealed actually this new cultivar. And it has some characteristics that are very peculiar and then make it really unique. And so it started widespread all around. I can tell straight away there is no sourness, the typical sour taste that you often have in Tiewanyin. Of course, you have it more in younger Tiewanyin, meaning greener, but you always feel a little bit that metallic taste and sourness on the teeth. There is nothing of that in there. A fairly thick mouthfeel. It reminds me the texture of butter or even oily a little bit, but I think buttery would be most appropriate. A distinct aroma, floral, but quietly so. It's not too aggressive, too much present. It's more in the aftertaste. A little bit of woodiness, maybe. Yeah, I think that describes it quite well. So it's a thick tea, a little bit of woodiness, a slightly quiet florality to it. Yeah, that's it. What distinguishes it most is really the texture. It's pretty thick and buttery, as I said. Yeah, that's really a distinction from Tiewanyin that has rather a lighter texture, actually. All right. Now, as I said in the introduction, this is a cultivar that is used in many different places, is used for many different teas, is really an all-rounder. Why? Well, first of all, the plant can adapt extremely well. It adapts to cold weather, it's really cold resistant, it adapts to places where there is not a lot of rain, it's really drought resistant. And also the cuttings have a pretty high survival rate. So when you plant the new small tiny plants, they tend to survive and not to die. Moreover, it has a high yield, different plants at different yields. It has a high yield, and last but not least, it has a really nice taste. And that's the reason why in the 60s, 70s, they started importing and planting those plants in Wuxian, because at that time there was an urge to increase the yield in Wuxian. Wuxian, for rock tea, is a small protected area. You cannot expand it that much, otherwise it's no more the original one. So you have to find a way to use the same amount of ground to have more tea, more leaves. And one way is using plants that are high yield. All right, now we said for Oolong it is used in Anxi. Here we are. You find this tea also on our shop. I'll put the link on the screen. First link to the US page, and in a moment you will have the link also to European shop. And it is, fairly affordable, so it's certainly worth trying. I'm not continue discussing much about that. If you're interested, you click the link, you have more information there. It is from this year, from 2023. Now, when it moved to Wuxian, the production was still Oolong, but you know that Yancha is fairly different than Anxi Tiewanyin, and in fact also the production is different. So they started roasting the tea for the first time. How did it react? Pretty well. Meaning that the characteristic of Mei Zhan remains also when you highly roast the leaves. Moreover, incredibly so actually, more recently they started using the plant also for green tea and black tea. Now, in green tea, it doesn't reveal that much the aromatics. I believe because those aromatics really come through with oxidation. But it is a fairly sharp and bold green tea that people may appreciate as well. So it has become quite popular especially in Jiangsu and in Zhejiang province. While black tea, you can find Mei Zhan black tea everywhere. It started all in Fujian and copying a little bit the trend with Jinjumei, they're starting also oxidizing truly, but not completely so. But it's also spread very far away. Like for example in Sichuan, we have we had the black tea from there, Mei Zhan Honcha, that comes from Sichuan. So different climate, different places, and still the plant is there. Now, the tea can become so extremely aromatic, way more than what I have in the cup, when oxidized truly, but without excessiveness, that is very, very, very well suited for black tea. The first time I had a Mei Zhan in my life, it was in 2015, spring 2015. I was in Fuzhou, I visited a tea shop, and they served me a cup of black tea next to another cup of black tea. One was yellow, the other one was the usual orange color. And I had a sip and they told me they're both black tea, and I was saying, but that doesn't really taste like a black tea. Also the leaves, actually was a bud tea, bud only, again copying Jinjumei, were kind of grayish, black, whitish, difficult to describe. It reminds me more actually an aged Baihao Indian, an aged white tea. And when I told it to the vendor, it came with no surprise, my comment. So somehow it's a cultivar that, yeah, it's somewhere there in between, right? And it can even turn very good as a white tea indeed, because the buds are pretty big. Oh, I love the texture. If you are a Tiewanyin drinker, or if you are not and you know why, it's because Tiewanyin tends to be a little bit aggressive. There is nothing of that in here. It's very pleasant, very soft, very mellow in the mouth. Anyway, let's speak now more about the plant. We already told you about how adaptive it is, how strong the plant is, but how does it look? First of all, the plant is sometimes, and Mei Zhan is sometimes called also Gaojiao Oolong. Gaojiao means something like tall. It means actually tall foot, but it means like tall stem, is a tall plant. Sometimes it's even called more extensively Daye Mei Zhan, big leaf Mei Zhan. And that's an indication to the type of tree. It is a qiaomu, so an harbor tree. Similarly, if you want to Shuixian, a even more famous cultivar, is also a qiaomu, is also a tall tree variety, meaning that it's not like a tiny bush, it can really grow tall, both of them. And Mei Zhan also has the trunk, meaning that differently than other bushes where there is a subdivision, let's say, in different stems already underground or just a ground level, so you don't see a trunk actually under the bush. In this case, there is really a trunk like a tree, and then from there on it spreads into branches. And it can can be pretty tall, similarly to Shuixian, even a couple of meters, where you would need a ladder to pick up the leaves. And sometimes, just another similarity with Shuixian, it is let grow older and older, and it is called Laozong Mei Zhan, similarly to Laozong Shuixian, the old bush Shuixian or Mei Zhan. Now, the leaves, though, are a bit different than Shuixian, and maybe that's a way of recognizing it. First of all, they are thicker. They are more of a leathery texture. They are quite elongated, and they end in tippy. They end in a tip, and the color is darker than the one of Shuixian. It's really a dark, a dark deep green. So just in case you want to travel to China and explore tea gardens yourself, yeah, you know now how to recognize it. Yeah. Say that, what can we tell more about the plant? Well, maybe it's also one reason why it was also used in Uishan. It is an early sprouting plant, means that it's one of the first that start shooting new sprouts in spring. And so if you plant it, for example, next to some Suishan trees, you can use the same pickers for the leaves because you first have the new sprouts from the Mei Zhan, and then maybe a few weeks later you can pick up the Suishan. All right, that's all I wanted to tell you about Mei Zhan today. I hope, yeah, it helps gaining some understanding about an interesting cultivar, and also, you know, more in general about what makes a cultivar attractive for a farmer. It's not only like you all about taste, they are also interested in how robust, strong, adaptive, survival the plant is. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye. Nadir, it tastes like a soup. A floral soup.